We now move on to the second speaker for the evening. Our next speaker requires little introduction within our fraternity. Architect Rahul Kadam is known for his creative approach, clarity of design thinking, and rich professional journey. It is an honor to introduce you to him this evening. An alumnus of BKPS College of Architecture, Pune, architect Rahul Kadam did his masters from South Bank, London, and was a student member at AA London. He travelled extensively before beginning work with leading architects like architect Bimal Patel, Hasmukh Patel, Kamal Malik, and architect Karan Grover. He has been a director and regional head at Edifice Consultants Private Limited for over 15 years, handling diverse portfolios like hospitals, hotels, special economic zones, IT campuses, schools, urban neighborhood projects, adaptive reuse projects, workspace environments. In a cutting edge corporate environment, in his stint at ECPL, he was fortunate to create workspace environments for diverse national and multinational corporations like TCS Limited, Tata Chemicals, Amdocs, Ventura, EDS, PTC, MasterCard, Credit Suisse, CDK Global, Citibank, Cisco, to name a few. Since the last 10 years, he has his own design firm, the NGK Studio, in partnership with his wife, architect Nandini Kadam. The NGK Studio focuses on sensitive design approach and has worked with prominent clients like Bajaj Auto Limited, Elpro International, Willow, BHTC, JL, Life University, Knight Frank, Kone, JLL, HRC, Microsoft, to name a few. He's a strong follower of the need for sensitive design and green approach in all his sectors of architecture and design, whatever the scale may be. He has taught and mentored several architectural schools in India, also has presented papers on subjects related to design and planning in India and overseas. He has traveled to many countries for project assignments and for studying architecture. His quest for excellence has helped him be a part of award-winning nominated projects in forums such as A+D Awards, Architectural Review, IIA, JK Awards, International Property Awards, ASA Awards, Ishre Awards, Contemporary Design Awards, etc. Also, projects designed by him are published in reputed journals and print media. All this in a professional career spanning for just over 2.5 decades. I now welcome you, sir, for your presentation. Sir will be presenting his curated reflections on Sri Lanka memories and experience that blends travel, culture, and architectural observation. That will be his first presentation, and then we'll move on to his next presentation. We welcome you, sir.
Okay, so good evening, and good to see a lot of familiar faces. Some of the people have actually taught me at architecture school, and some of them were with me in college, and some of them are contemporary architects who are practicing with me. So my presentation today is in two parts, it's like a sequel. The first part is something which I follow as a pilgrimage every year. I travel for 10 days to go and see work of reputed architects and learn from it. And a lot of that learning kind of manifests into my work and the philosophy of my practice. And in the second part is a project for Bajaj Auto, the plant office, which was honored the ASA award last year, which you will see. So there's a kind of a manifestation of learnings that has come into that. So let me start with the first part. But before I start, I just want to thank my team members, Isha Chiplunkar and Piyush Agrawal, to put all this presentation in place. It takes a lot of effort to, document things and do that. So I was told that I have to, present my learnings from the Sri Lanka trip in 12 minutes, which is a little bit of an injustice, but I'll try. And it's not working. It's not working. No. Okay. You'll have to just help me. So my first encounter, if I were to say, with Baba was when I had gone to Maldives for an audit for Edifice at the Four Seasons Resort. And it also became a holiday for 4 days. And this was the sketch at one of the resorts where we stayed, where, the fusion of built and open and the synergy that the built and open shared. So this was a kind of a memory sketch which I later on reflected on in 2013, but the visit was made in 2008. And last year, when Mahesh sent me the poster, I think within first 5 minutes I was the person to register that I want to go and pay my tributes to Baba, because prior to that, twice the visit I had tried and it got cancelled. So I'm just going to present about Baba, because we saw quite a lot of work in Sri Lanka of Baba and his prodigies, but it's not possible to cover it in 12 minutes. So I'm going to show you three projects which I feel are significant projects in his trajectory of work. The first is obviously his house, which was a 10-year long project from the 1960s to 70s. The second was obviously is one of his best projects, the Kandalama Resort, which is a hospitality project. And the third is his old studio or office in Colombo. So basically, to give you a little bit of variety, I've chosen three typologies: a house, a resort, and a kind of a workspace. So the house is a 10-year long project which took from 1960 to 70, because this is an assemblage of four houses that Baba bought over time. And when you go there, one of the things that struck me is you don't know where the house starts and where it ends. Of course, there is a gate from which you enter. But once you are into this axis, there are series of courtyards which punctuate the built mass. And I think the trick is the green edge that kind of garlands the built mass. So as you're walking along the house, you have the series of green spaces which are, punctuating through the built mass. And one of the most amazing things that I felt is in a tropical climate like Sri Lanka, because of these courtyards, he has very beautifully managed to get in natural light and cross ventilation, so you don't sweat also, So this is very interesting, and you really cannot make out where you are, because the house just keeps growing, because it's an assemblage of four houses. This part here, which is blown up, now has been developed into a kind of a guest hotel where you can lease out guest rooms and have your own private garden. But if you see the plan and section, you can see how the built and the open actually are in synergy. Now, while you are inside, especially on this spine, you see these punctuated courts. So one of the views is from here, the other view is from there. And I've just put down some sketches that I often make when I travel to actually understand how the variety of courts. So like example, this court is actually opening up and allowing the rainwater to come in and allowing the rainwater to percolate down, so that the recharge is good and also getting in light. Whereas this court is actually framing this beautiful tree. And somebody told me that sometimes you feel Baba is actually sitting there in the night, enjoying the tree. So there is a mysterious feeling in these spaces. And a lot of artwork which is being reused and recycled throughout the house is actually mock-ups from his projects. So for example, this chair is from Kandalama. These columns are from his old office, and so on and so forth. So it's actually a beautiful experiment of circularity in terms of reusing some of the materials that were discarded, tried out. And then the floor is polished concrete floor. So there is a seamless movement. You don't see joints anywhere. And then there is a frugality of what you see. So there are imperfections, but they look beautiful. Everything is very, very sleek. You sometimes get lost. But I think frugality has its own beauty. And then from the terrace, if you see, you can actually see how the built mass blends with the landscape. And actually, the building literally merges into the landscape. So it's a fantastic experiment in adaptive reuse where four houses were orchestrated into a sequence of built and open courts, but you don't know where the first house started and the fourth house ended. Now, coming to Kandalama, this is probably one of his best projects. This was done in, it was between 1992 to 1995. And the best part of this project is how the building is sited. So the building actually sits parallel to the contours on the kind of flattest terrain. And what he has done beautifully is on this side there is a hill, and he's allowed all the rainwater to go below the lower part of the building, which is a stilt. So, in the rains, when you are on, all the transition spaces are along this axis, and the rooms look over the Kandamala lake. And while you're walking in these transition spaces to go to your rooms, you can actually hear the sound of trickling water like a tranquil waterfall when the rains are there. So on this side, you get a beautiful view of the hill and the forest, and when you're in the room, you get a view of the lake. And it is actually like a non-building, though it is an RCC building. The landscape literally takes over the building, and it becomes a non-building. So different times of the year, you see the building vanishing into the landscape, and then again the building coming out. It's that kind of a interesting building. Now, they say that God or devil lies in the detail, and I think this is true for all of Baba's work. And in this project, it is well manifested. All the top areas, which where banquets and all these open up, these spillovers are terrace gardens, which are beautifully done by these inverted beams, and then you have a carpet of actual landscape which reduces heat, the sensitive heat into the public areas here. And wherever you walk along the transition spaces, you kind of frame a panorama of the landscape. The rock is actually kept, because this was a rocky site, the rock is actually kept the way it is, and the built mass actually kind of complements the rock, and you have window details or wall details like this, as if the rock was a part of the whole composition. So he's not trying to superimpose the architecture and kind of remove the rock. He's actually made it into an art element. And then in the rooms, the way the study, the way the bathtub, the way the bed is laid out, you kind of view the lake. The only problem is you cannot open the sliding windows here because monkeys come in. So we tried, but every time we would open, once I tried to have beer outside, the monkeys came to have beer with me. So I had to close this and sit inside and enjoy, because then the room has to be air conditioned. But there is, I think, a mosquito net which allows you, but the monkeys also start scratching that. But the point is that you actually feel you're floating into the landscape while looking at the lake and the foreground of the landscape and the lake while you're on the bed. And then as you go to the end of the corridors, he has taken this floating detail of corridors where you actually feel you're standing on a bridge overlooking the landscape. The most stunning detail is very simple detail. A lot of people do it now, but this was done probably for the first time by him, is the infinite pool, where this line of the pool and the lake becomes one. And this is the kind of, look. So if you are an avid swimmer, when you are actually doing breaststroke, you feel you're going to go and swim in the lake till you come to this bund and wait and look to the horizon. So everywhere the building is for the view and the view is for the building. They're counterintuitive. Nowhere you find the synergy is missing. Coming to Baba's old studio, which is in Colombo, because after a certain age he started using his estate Lanuganga and his house number 11 for work because he's very old to kind of actually go to office. So this is also a very interesting building where it's a very linear plot and it is an assemblage of two built masses, but it's broken by three courts. So the first court is obviously the court where you come and park. Again, all the parking in his private properties, even in here, was where a Rolls Royce could get parked and reversed and come out because he had two Rolls Royce at any time. And then you come to this court, which is this one, and you don't know where the building is. You know, the texture of the trees in terms of the shadows and the green cover and it's all stone paving, which is again very porous, which allows the rainwater to get recharged. You really don't know where the building is. It's very inconspicuous. And then you walk through this narrow corridor, and this was where initially, the guests would be received. And then this was a reception court, which has this beautiful linear water body which is again very porous. So when you're standing here, you feel there is something happening there and there is a green edge here. So really you don't know whether the building is ending here. You feel there is something. And then this was the main studio with a back court. But again, now this has been converted into a restaurant and a kind of a fine dining kind of a setup. But there is a complete mystery of what happens here, what is going to happen there, and suddenly you explode into this space and the green edges actually take over, and then suddenly you go into a built mass where you start framing this view. And there is this mystery which continues of the synergy between built and open. And I think that is what is very difficult to do, you know. It looks very simple, but it's extremely difficult to do when you start doing a project. So the way the landscape and the simplicity of the plan is articulated itself is the genius of Baba. So I just want to end the first part by saying that uh, the design philosophy is very deeply rooted in nature. Uh, the response to local climate, context, and it has a sensory experience. I mean, I, for the first time, felt that the space hit me here and then here, not the other way around. And I think if a space can hit you at the heart and then go to the brain, it has that power. And we saw about 12 projects. Every project had a different variety. You could never say that this is by the same architect. And you really felt good. You felt that you were a human being, you know, after being there. And in the same country, there are hotels with absolutely no credence to context and the place. And then you have his work, which is actually set this kind of a legacy. So um, some of the ideas are so simple, but when you start doing it on your own projects, and you realize that he must have had a very tough time convincing his client of how to do it. You know, I think the most simplest things are the most difficult to do, and this is a fantastic example of what Baba has done. So I'll end this part with this and go to the main one. If you have any questions on this part, I'm more than happy to answer, or we could move to the next part.
Thank you, sir, for this beautiful narration. We felt we were a part of your journey when you were doing this.
I wish you